Hey all, it's Nim or Nimicry if you're feeling professional, and welcome to the YouTube video. Now today we're going to be talking about an issue that often plagues new players. What is that issue? That is tanxiety. This video series is all about overcoming tanxiety. I want you to be able to strap on that shield, or pick up that big axe, or maybe that gun blade, or maybe the two-handed sword, depending on your flavor of tank, and be able to walk into an instance comfortable in your knowledge that even if you don't succeed at first, you will succeed. So we're going to do that first by defining what tanxiety is, going over a couple of strategies to overcome it. In the second video, we're going to go through a couple of dungeons, and in the third video, we're going to do some raid tanking. So there it is. I look forward to that. Before we get started, guys, I want to first say thank you to all the patrons who support me. You can support me if you'd like to at patreon.com/Nimicry, as low as $1 a month. And of course, without further ado, let's get started. First, what is tanxiety? Let's throw that definition on the screen now. Boop. Tanxiety. Noun, a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease about tanking. Now that we've defined what tanxiety is, let's talk about a couple strategies and concepts you need to internalize in order to overcome it. By the end of this video, if you follow the concepts, you should be reasonably confident that you can walk into a standard dungeon and be okay. First and most importantly, you are going to die sometimes. It happens. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean you're a bad player. It doesn't mean the group hates you. It doesn't mean they're gonna kick you. It doesn't mean anything. There are certain MMOs in the genre that tend to foster a more toxic community towards failure, especially as you start to climb to the higher ends of content. Whether those be timed or received incredibly hard rating or things like that. So keep that in mind, that no matter how good you are as a tank, you're going to die. Sometimes things just come up and bop you right on the head. It's happened to me. One of the first times I got to run with Karma, or Poke in Guild, I was learning how to tank as a paladin from a guy named Aiden. Aiden was like, hey Nim, make sure to do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Okay, great. And the first thing I do is after the swap, I shirk him. So he's already debuffed, he gets shirked, and then the party wipes. Forget what fight it was. But anyways, the point is that this is the very first time I'm tanking with them. Rukia said that I was a good player, and this was the first time they met me, and I started with failure. Now, here's the thing. Oftentimes now in the FC, when I offer to tank, people are like, yeah, sure, Nim's good, Nim's got it, we'll be fine, we'll get through it. But keep in mind, no matter what you do, there will be times where you fail, there will be times where you die, there will be times where you, as the most visible point of failure, because remember, if the heals fail to keep people up, DPS can cover. If DPS fail to do enough damage, you can cover and soak in the heals. If you fail to mitigate and hold threat, your other 3 members of your party, or your other 7 members of your party, depending on what content you're running, die. So, you are the most visible point of failure. But keep that in mind. Don't worry so much about dying and failing at an encounter. Worst thing that happens is you click, come back to the beginning, and you start over. Now that we've covered the fact that sometimes you will fail, and that's okay, because even the best players don't play at 100% all the time, and some of this stuff is group mechanics. What if your heals weren't very good? Or what if your DPS was lacking, and because of that you hit an enrage? You can only do so much as a tank, so again, take responsibility for your role, cover where you can, but realize this is a team game, and you need a team to work together and, let's say, perform at a certain level for everything to be clear. The lower the content ceiling, the wider margins you have to cover. But this brings us to our second point. Know your abilities. Pretty simple, right? You want to know your enmity combo? So I've got Fast Blade, Riot Blade, Royal Authority, or Fast Blade, Riot Blade, Goring Blade. Those are my 2 basic enmity generators for single target. We have our AoE, 4 and 5, which is Total Eclipse, and Prominence. Then, of course, I have Circle of Scorn as a nice little off GCD, Intervene as an off GCD, and Expatian as an off GCD. If I want to go into Magic, we start with Requisite, and then I can go to Holy Spirit for single target, Holy Circle for our AoE. I can do Clemency for healing, and then after 4 stacks of Requisite is spent, I use my last one to go into the Confiteor combo, which looks really, really cool. If you haven't seen the Confiteor combo, I recommend it. Now, you may be like, Nim, I'm not playing a Paladin. Okay, great. While I think the Paladin is the best tank, It's my favorite job. There are some other tanks are very strong at certain things. Warrior is currently in an amazing position for healing as time of recording, so keep that in mind. But my point is, what were these things? This was my enmity combo 1, enmity combo variant, AoE combo, off GCDs, magic combo with some flexibility for healing if necessary. That means that when I go into a dungeon, I'm pulling a lot of packs. Okay, well, that means I'm going to start with Total Eclipse and Prominence. Great. And as I do Total Eclipse, I'll be like, boom, there's that. And then, oh, hey, look at that, off GCD, and now we're into Prominence. Now, everything I hit is mine. So then, at that point, not only is Circle of Scorn ticking on the enemies I pulled, I can go run into another pack and be like, hey, look, Total Eclipse, Prominence, and they're mine. Now I have 2 packs with me. Okay, so I've got 2 packs, means I'm going to be taking some damage. Now I'm taking some damage, I got to look at what are my defensive options. Because here's the thing. Heals are responsible for keeping the tank alive and the other DPS. Right, no problem, we got that, we all understand that. But, you, as the tank, are also responsible for mitigation. Now, what does mitigation mean? Reduce damage. Simple. Alright, we don't need a $5 word for that. Just reduce the damage. So how do we reduce damage? We've got a couple of abilities as the tank. So we look here, we've got Sentinel, reduces damage taken by 30%, 15 seconds. Rampart, reduces damage taken by 20 for 20 seconds. We've got Arm's Length, nullifies, it creates a knockback, but it also, more importantly, applies a slow. So when they physically hit you, that means they do less DPS. We have Holy Sheltron, becomes Holy Sheltron at 82. Before then, it's Sheltron. And then, of course, we have Reprisal. Reprisal reduces damage dealt by nearby enemies by 10%. So you may ask, like, Nim, what do I do? Do I pop all of them once? No. You want to pop... Oh, and then, of course, you have Hollowed Ground, which is your invulnerability for 10 seconds. Keep in mind that you will not drop Enmity with Hollowed Ground. When I came over from WoW, that was the first habit that I had to break, and still sometimes it's a little hard. Because I'm used to, after playing WoW for so many years, as a Paladin, my invuln made me not able to hold threat. My bubble was like, oh, pop bubble, drop threat. So, there it is. But... let's say, I'm pulling those 2 packs, right? So I might want to pop Arm's Length and Sentinel. That way, I take a damage reduction. Then when they hit me, they're slowed. This gives heals a couple of, maybe a GCD to catch up. That way they don't have to do emergency triage healing. You can stabilize. And here's the best part is, once health is stabilized, once damage output is kind of regulated, then heals can be like, alright, I can cast damage spells to burn these things down faster so I don't have to heal. You, knowing your abilities and when to use them as a tank, control the fight and make the encounter go smoother. So, number 2, know your ability. For our third point, I decided to head into a dungeon and just show you what's going on. We've just summoned the first boss here, the Chopper, and this has been the first dungeon you've seen. We're going to be talking about positionals. Now, you'll notice I'm moving all around. I'm facing the boss every which way. Here's the thing about that. While that might be good for you, if you keep spinning the boss, you keep dancing with it, you have melee DPS that are going to miss out on doing maximum amounts of damage because they have positionals too. Do they do more damage on the flank? Then they attack the flank. Do they do more damage to the rear? Then they attack the rear. And if you're constantly spinning, then they not only have to manage their rotation, but they also have to manage their positionals. And then you lose out on DPS, and over time, that gulf becomes wider and wider and wider and wider and wider. Now, I'm tired of dealing with the Chopper, so lay down. There we go. Also, imagine you've been playing this game for a while. You've probably seen some orange circles or lines on the floor. Okay, you want to get out of those. But Nim, I'm a tank. I'm tough. We got heals. I can get healed. The more damage you take, the more the healers have to heal you. And if it can be sidestepped by a simple, 1 second out, oh, but I'm out of melee range, cool. Then you can charge back or teleport back or move back or throw a ranged attack, it's fine. But don't take avoidable damage, especially as the difficulty increases, because it doesn't just come with damage as the difficulty increases. You'll see this in the next video. It comes with vulnerability stacks where you not only did you take damage, but now for the next minute, you take a proportionate amount more damage than you did before, and oh yeah, those vulnerability stacks, stack up until you die. Eventually what'll happen is, you just get 1 hit. and then you get laid down, and then the rest of the party dies. So remember, positionals are important. Get the boss, plant your feet, move out of orange and damage as necessary, and then stay there. Because if you're dancing, then you're losing DPS, because you're focused on movement. So the final piece of advice I want to give you to overcome tanxiety is assess the situation correctly. So what happened? You died, then the healer died, then the 2 DPS died. You're getting messages in chat like, oh, noob tank, don't you even know how to play this game? And you have to assess what happened. Why did the party die? But first, let's take a look. Did you pop your mitigations? Oh, you did. Perfect. They're on cooldown? Wonderful. Did you communicate with your healer? Because maybe you pulled too much. Remember, the tank and the healer are 2 sides of the same coin. So you guys got to work together. Maybe you pulled too much. Did DPS pull ahead of you and pull too much? It's possible, because we all know that sometimes DPS get a little antsy to get in there and be like, let me at him. Let me at him. So sometimes that happens. Were there avoidable mechanics? Did you stand in something and take a stacking debuff? Because that happens, and even the best healer in the game can't keep you alive if you have too many stacking debuffs. And some things aren't cleansable. Bone stacks in particular. Or was it just a complete group failure? Meaning the heals didn't do it, you didn't do it, DPS didn't do it, maybe there wasn't enough DPS originally. The point is, don't beat yourself up about it unnecessarily. Look to see if you did what you needed to do. If you did it, assert yourself. Remember, you're the tank. You're the de facto party leader. You are the visible point of failure. If you don't succeed, everybody else fails too. Now you may say, but damn, what about heals? It's a symbiotic relationship. Yes, I understand it's a symbiotic relationship, but this video is about tanxiety, and I need my newbie tanks, my baby tanks to feel like, yeah, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready. I got armor. I got weapons. I'm ready to put it right in the enemy's face. So we're gonna big up the tanks a little bit. But assess the situation correctly. Because here's the thing. It's not always your fault. It may feel in your brain like it's always your fault until you overcome the tanxiety. But it's not always your fault. Sometimes it's the heals, sometimes it's the DPS, and sometimes in those glorious situations which happen from time to time, it's everyone's fault. Not enough DPS, not enough heals, not enough mitigation, or you all stood in the stupid and whoop, you're dead. There it is. 4 steps to overcome tanxiety. Realize you're gonna fail and die sometimes. Know your abilities. Positionals are important and not just for you. And assess the situation correctly. Using those 4 tips, keep that in mind as you go through your content tanking. Realize that as a newbie tank, you might struggle with some of these at first, but eventually what happens is you internalize them. You realize, you stop having to think like, oh, what do I do, and you get good. And then you become confident to where it's like, yes, I can queue with random people and we can get through this dungeon, and I'm not going to have to worry if someone's going to scream at me or get my hair torn out. Now, of course, different MMORPGs may have different communities and different standards. Final Fantasy XIV in general is pretty kind. Other MMOs may not be. So keep that in mind and adjust your, let's say, expectations accordingly. Now, if you enjoyed this video, or you like what the channel does in particular, go on and subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with everything the channel does. In addition, I've been told to push this more often. I stream on Twitch every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Friday and Sunday are Final Fantasy XIV nights, and Saturday is a wildcard stream where we open up the Discord and we do some other stuff. We either do like media share or maybe another RPG. It's a lot of fun. I recommend you guys check it out, and that is at twitch.tv/Nimicry. Speaking of the Discord, if you want to talk to me at greater length, you can. Add the Discord. There's a link down below in the description box. Also, you can find me on Twitter if you're social medially inclined. And that's at Nimicry. It's on screen right now, so feel free to look at that. People on screen right now are a list of current patrons, and if you'd like to join them, hey, I'd be very happy. Ultimately, this was a fun video to make for me, because I've seen people struggle with tanxiety. Friends of mine on Twitter who love this game, and they're like, man, I don't know, I gotta, what do I do? And it's like, come on. So I figured I'd put my knowledge out there from playing MMOs for a long time, and see if I can't help. I will see you in the next video. May the mount you're farming drop on the first kill.